Brad Thomas has never worked a day on Wall Street. He doesn't have an Ivy League degree, and for years, he knew practically nothing about the stock market, which means we have something in common there. But that's where we part ways. Today, he is the most popular expert on seeking alpha. His investment research is endorsed by billionaire investors, CEOs, and more. And in today's volatile market, while most folks are losing money, he has found an unusual way to profit. And it's not by betting against stocks or buying options or government bonds. What's his secret? Well, as you'll see, Brad doesn't invest the usual way. In fact, you won't hear his method promoted on CNBC, and it's probably the last thing your broker is going to tell you to do too. But let's face it, the conventional advice is not working, not by a long shot. And that's why we're thrilled that he has agreed to join us today. For the first time, he has come forward to share what he's doing with his own money right now, and that includes the name and ticker of his favorite stock. Brad Thomas, welcome. Glad you're here in our studio.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
So like I was saying in the intro, you don't come from a typical investing background. In fact, you made your first fortune outside of the stock market entirely. And it's only been recently that you started recommending stocks, and it's all because of a major breakthrough that's changing the lives of everyday folks out there, right?
That's right. Today I'm going to show you something that might seem a bit radical. I call them swan stocks.
Swan stocks.
That's right. The only investments I own today fall under this category, and for good reason. All you have to do is own a small handful, and you could retire wealthier than you would be by trading, chasing these latest hot stock, or doing anything your broker tells you.
All right, well, I know big talk when I hear it. You're basically saying that everybody watching can essentially buy swan stocks today and never worry about money again? If that's true, they've got to be something very, very special, Brad, because most stocks I follow, let's face it, they're deep in the red, right? I mean, I think of stocks like Apple. That one's fallen as much as 26%, Amazon 38%, Netflix 70%. So we got to be honest here and say investors have been losing money hand over fist.
They are, and unfortunately the pain is only going to continue for most people because they're following the kind of playbook that only works during a boom. And that's why I focus solely on swan stocks. When you own them, recessions, bear markets, crashes, none of those things matter the same way anymore. Not only are these stocks beating the market, they allow you to collect thousands of dollars every month no matter what's happening in the world. And that stream of payouts can rise year after year after year.
Mm-hmm. And these swan stocks, are these companies we've heard of?
I think you're going to be surprised. These stocks rarely get mentioned on the money channels. Very few investors have ever heard of some of them. Even fewer own them. I aim to change that today. Because let's face it, we're beyond the point of pain right now. This is not a nice to have investment. It's a must have, especially in this environment.
Right. Your team, Brad, sent along some examples of everyday folks out there on Main Street who are following your swan approach. I have to say the results sound very impressive. We got one man here who said it's helped him lay the foundation for income for life. There's another one who describes himself as a humble cabinet maker, and he said, I stuck to this strategy and have done well through multiple crazy drops over a few years. You're my hero, you, Brad. And these are just a few examples. There are hundreds more. We'll share a few of them with our viewers tonight.
That's what's great about this approach. Anybody can invest in swan stocks through their regular brokerage account. You don't need a background on Wall Street. You don't need a decades of experience. This is as close to autopilot investing as you can get. There's only one catch.
Oh, really? What's that?
You'll want to move fast. Something big is happening in the market. A major shift. Something we haven't seen in decades. And I believe we could see hundreds of popular stocks fall even further than they already have. However, if you follow my lead, you could come out far ahead. But you'll need to act now. The longer you hold on to these stocks that are falling apart, the harder it will be to recover. I'll explain everything, including the name of my number one stock.
Okay, we'll hold you to that. And time is of the essence, apparently. So as you can see, folks, I think you've made a smart decision to join us here today. If Brad's discovery is all that he claims it to be, this is going to be a game changer for anyone at or near retirement. No more trying to time the market apparently, no more worrying about recessions or bear markets. With one small group of stocks, you could put your money worries behind you for good. So today we're going to get to the bottom of all of this, and that includes Brad's top swan stock, as he just mentioned. Brad, let's jump right into this. What exactly are these stocks? How did you discover them?
I discovered them the hard way.
What do you mean by that?
Here's what happened. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to work in real estate. That was always my passion.
Right.
So when I graduated from college, I got my first job. I started out at the bottom as a leasing agent, but I realized the big money was in being a developer. So I quickly started making deals. Before long, I was developing full-blown shopping centers worth millions of dollars.
Okay. So when was this? What time frame?
The early 2000s.
Okay.
Those were the days, Chris, you'd literally drive to a little town, find a Walmart, find the out parcel for $100,000, throw up an Advance Auto Parts store, sell it, and go on to the next one. I did this dozens of times. All told, I personally arranged the financing for $1 billion of real estate transactions. As the deals got bigger, so did my bank account. I was worth over $1 million, then $10 million, then $25 million.
Wow, nice little arrangement. So I know you said there was a hard lesson in there, but so far this doesn't sound all that difficult. Sounds like you had a huge success story going.
It was. On the surface, everything was great, but there was a problem. As the money came in, my tolerance for risk increased. After a while, I began to feel like I was Oz, the all-powerful.
Oh, I see. Yeah, setting up for a big fall. We know how that story ends, right? Eventually the curtain is pulled back to reveal the man behind Oz. And you're saying the same thing happened to you.
Yes. Long story short, when the real estate bubble burst, I got crushed. I was worth a lot on paper, but I had very little cash. When the income from my properties dried up, I could barely pay the interest on the loans. The only reason I didn't file for bankruptcy was because I couldn't afford to pay the bankruptcy attorney. Here I was, a 35-year-old developer with 5 kids, living in a $2 million house, and now I'd lost everything. Chris, we all have defining moments in life. Mine came in a parking lot. My wife was asking me to pick up diapers and milk. I was sitting in the parking lot of a $15 million property that I once developed. I remember thinking out loud, why is it that I have just $20 in my pocket and the bag boys in jobs I helped create are better off than me?
That sounds like it was quite the humbling moment. And you're right, we all have those from time to time. The answer is basically, you said it a moment ago, you just took on way too much risk.
Yes, I had forgotten the most important lesson in investing. Protect principal at all costs. I've become a gambler, not a developer.
Right. So devastating turn of events, but the happy side of this, seeing where you ended up, obviously you didn't let that setback ruin you.
I didn't. As the legendary investor Benjamin Graham once said, adversity is bitter, but its uses may be sweet. In the end, we could count great compensations. I had to build myself back from the ground up. With 5 kids, there was no time to waste.
Yeah, and I'm sure that wasn't easy. What did you do?
I had to make a choice. Either bag groceries, which was actually my first job.
Really?
Or figure out a better way to invest. That led me to the approach that I'm sharing today. It completely changed my life.
Right, it did. You know, in preparation for our discussion here today, I did a little bit of research on you, and I know that thanks in part, large part, to that defining moment, as you called it, you have since been able to really travel the world. We should let everybody know. You've met with and interviewed well over 100 different CEOs and business leaders. I know you're an adjunct instructor at NYU. You wrote a book on President Trump and his real estate empire. I think you even met with him on a number of occasions. And you've been on television. You've been interviewed about all of this on Fox Business, Fox and Friends, CNN, MSNBC, probably others as well. But here's what I'm most jealous of. You own not one, but 2 Porsches. So by my definition, you're living a dream life right now.
You're right. I'm very blessed. I also have a beautiful wife, 5 wonderful children, and recently, my first grandbaby.
Hey, congratulations.
But it's not just me, Chris. The everyday people following my work are seeing great results. That's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, but why, Brad? What are these swan stocks that you've talked about? Why are they such an effective way to accumulate wealth?
Okay, let me explain. Swan is the term I use to describe the only kind of stocks I want to own, period. Today, tomorrow, basically forever. SWAN is short for sleep well at night.
Right. Thank you for mentioning that. I should have asked you earlier. SWAN stands for sleep well at night, and wouldn't that be nice? I mean, the way the market has been acting this year, I know I can't be the only one who's had restless nights out there.
Right. Unless you're already wealthy, the market's been a nightmare.
Yeah.
And even if you're wealthy, you've probably also lost a lot of money. I just saw a stat. 77% of Americans are anxious about their finances right now. 77%. That's tens of millions of people.
And I totally believe, actually, I'm surprised that number isn't higher because I see it every day. I mean, practically everybody I talk to is very concerned about this. They're worried. We all are.
And unfortunately, most folks are choosing the wrong solution. They don't realize there's a small group of stocks they can buy today, forget about, and grow wealthy from year after year. See, so many investors have been conditioned to think, I've got to find the next big thing.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been guilty of it myself. I find myself wondering, I always think if I could just find, if I could hit it right with a $1 stock, you know, or some tiny crypto somewhere, my worries would be over. I do that all the time.
But that's basically betting your life on a lottery ticket. Maybe it works for a few people, but it's not a realistic way to get wealthy. That's why I ignore what most people are doing. I avoid so-called hot stocks and focus on swan stocks.
And that makes sense to me. I understand what you're saying. It's something that we all wish for, to make more money with less stress. And I don't want to go off the rails by sounding overly skeptical, but Brad, come on. In today's market, the picture that you just described, how is that possible? It is crazy out there. If what you're saying is true, if these swan stocks, sleep well at night stocks, if they really exist, wouldn't we all know about it by now at this point? Wouldn't my broker have put me into these stocks months ago? I would think they would.
Chris, I'm going to tell you a secret about brokers.
Okay.
They want commissions. You're right. They would never tell you to create a swan portfolio. That's their worst nightmare. The more active you are, the more money they make. Same thing with the money channels. Can you imagine one of the talking heads saying, the truth is, if you buy a handful of stocks, you can turn off the TV and relax.
Okay. I see your point. Yeah, they definitely, they want us glued to the TV 24/7, right?
That anchor would be fired faster than you can blink. And it's a shame, because when you dig into the numbers, you can make a lot more money with my approach.
Can you give us an example?
Oh, I'll do better than that. I'm going to give away my favorite swan stock in just a minute. But first, I think it might help to get more specific. You've asked me what makes these stocks so special. There are three main reasons. The first and most important is they're anti-fragile.
Anti-fragile. What does that mean exactly?
Simple. Their income and profits are rock solid. In some cases, these companies have contracts in place that ensure the checks keep rolling in. Or they have a product that's so critical to modern life, no one can do without it.
So, in other words, when markets get rocky, when there's a recession, they're not going to be affected the same way a typical company would be. Is that right?
Right. In many cases, they just keep climbing. And another thing about these stocks is their value. Their share price isn't based on hopes and dreams. You've probably noticed how things like tech stocks and cryptos have tanked recently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why is that?
It's partly because they were valued based on unrealistic expectations. But the stocks I'm talking about are the complete opposite. They're the most predictable sleep well at night stocks on the planet. That's why they're beating the market as we speak. Listen to this one. One of my picks doesn't get anywhere near the attention that Tesla or other hot stocks, but it's arguably given more everyday folks the chance to become millionaires than any other company. And it's just getting started. Billionaires, politicians, and wealthy investors are loading up on this stock. In fact, earlier this year, it was Congress's favorite new buy.
Really? So why do they like it so much?
Because it has a near monopoly on one of the most popular products in the world. On average, its share price has doubled every year for a decade. And it pays out billions to its shareholders every year, no matter what happens in the markets. Can you imagine being one of those shareholders, Chris?
Wow. I got to think about this. Growing my wealth 1,000% over 10 years, and on top of that, making thousands of dollars in income, that almost seems, I have low expectations, but that seems too good to be true to me.
It does, but that's exactly what's happening with this stock. Another one of my picks crushed the market during the first half of the year. Look at this. While the market dropped 19%, it delivered double-digit gains.
Okay, wait just a second, Brad. You're saying that while just about every popular stock plummeted, This particular stock delivered double-digit gains.
Yes, and it continues to beat the market today. These are just a few examples. As a group, these stocks are beating the market by nearly 2 to 1. Again, these kinds of anti-fragile returns are very rare,
Right.
but they're available right now with these Swan stocks.
Well, I'm getting more excited by the moment. I definitely want to hear more details about these plays, Brad, and I know I'm not the only one out there. First, let's hear about the second benefit of your approach. The first one was anti-fragile.
Yes, the second is income.
Okay.
Chris, how well would you sleep if you had money rolling in month after month, and those payouts were growing so fast they wildly exceeded your cost of living?
I would sleep very, very soundly.
Well, with my Swan stocks, that can be your new reality. These companies pay out millions, even billions of dollars to their shareholders. And just to be clear, this goes way beyond ordinary quarterly dividends. As you'll see, some of these stocks are legally obligated to pay you. They don't have a choice. In other cases, they pay you 3 times more payments than the typical company. All told, with my group of Swan stocks, you get paid nearly 50 times a year.
50, so basically a payday almost every week on average.
Yes, and here's the best part. Every one of these companies has implemented what I call payout increase program.
All right, so how does that work?
If you start out getting $100 in deposits, over time those can become $150, $200, even $300 or more.
Is that true? Payouts could really double or triple over time?
They could do a whole lot more than that, Chris. Just listen to what's happening with this Swan stock I bought a while back. I'm so happy about this investment. I have the stock certificate. I keep it on my wall. I brought it with me today.
I saw it sitting next to your chair earlier. That's amazing. There it is. Now, you know, I didn't even actually know you could still get those.
Yeah, pretty neat, right?
Yeah.
Now, since I invested in this company, it's gone up as much as 900%. You might be wondering, why not sell? After all, I could cash out a big payday.
That's actually a good point. So why are you still holding it?
Because this stock has a payout increase program. Since I invested, its payouts have jumped 800%.
800%. So you're pocketing 800% more income without doing a thing. That's amazing. I'm not going to ask you how much you're making here, but check my math on this. So 800% means that turns $100 into $900, $500 into $4,500, $1,000 into $9,000. Am I doing that right?
That's exactly right. Isn't that amazing? Normally, that kind of return is next to impossible. But with Swan stocks, that is precisely what can happen over time. I brought some charts with me to illustrate this point. Can we pull them up?
Absolutely. I'd love to. And they're up right now. Go ahead, please.
These are charts of my top Swan picks. Now, Chris, as these charts flash on the screen, tell me, do you see a pattern?
Well, the most obvious thing I can see is they're all going up.
Right. And not only that, in some cases, they've never gone down, not once.
Yeah, now I see you've actually marked some places here, the crashes and panics. I see the crash of '87, we've got the recession of the early 1990s, the dot-com bust, the Great Recession of '08, and even during the steep COVID crash of 2020, and even this year, which has been pretty awful for most of us, obviously, the payouts have only gone up. You know, that is shocking to me.
Do you see why I call them sleep well at night stocks?
Yeah, and you don't, again, I sound like a broken record here, you don't have to do a thing to get these increases. There's no paperwork, there's no additional filings, nothing?
Nothing. The money gets deposited into your account automatically. Watching that money grow is an amazing feeling, Chris. Listen to this next example. It will blow your mind. This is another Swan stock I have up on my wall. I brought this one with me too.
That must be one big wall. So what's the story behind this one?
I bought this one a few years before the other one. It's worked out better than I could have ever imagined. First off, its share price has soared as much as 3,600%. But even better than that, it's raised its payouts 3,400%.
You are making 34 times more than you were at the beginning? I got to do the math on this one too. Check me here. So that turns $100 income stream into $3,400. $500 income stream would, what is that, $17,000 and $1,000 into $34,000.
Do you know anybody who's gotten a 3,400% raise from their boss? or in their Social Security checks?
Oh man, no way. Social Security can barely keep up with inflation, right?
That's what's great about these stocks. You don't have to leave your finances up to a boss or a government agency that doesn't give a hoot about you. You're in control. Your income can go up every year no matter what.
And I just want to be clear about this. These payouts come in addition to capital gains too. So we're talking about both of those, right?
That's right. The share price barely matters at all. The stock has its ups and downs over the years.
Right.
You can see them on this chart. But who cares? Through all of them, my checks have gotten bigger.
So I assume these two plays on your wall, these made your list of top Swan stocks.
No. They're great long-term investments. I don't plan on selling anytime soon, but they did make the cut. I found some others that I think are even better. One of these stocks has increased its payout every year for more than 50 years. Think of all that's happened since then, Chris. Do you know how many recessions we've had in that time?
Oh, I have no, it's a lot. How many?
8.
8.
Through it all, this company raised its payouts. Yet very few people know about it. Another one of my plays recently increased its payout by 64% in just 3 months. Imagine you invest in a company. Then 3 months later, your $500 income stream is $820. And you didn't have to do a thing. Another one of these firms pays out every month. It's been doing that for nearly 29 years.
So I'm trying to do the math on that one too, and I can't, you probably know. How many payouts is that?
348. It's never missed once. And the payouts have increased almost every year. Again, this kind of thing is not normal. It's only available with a tiny fraction of stocks. If you invest in these plays today, you could start collecting hundreds, even thousands of dollars, and that number could grow every year.
It's amazing to hear about it. You're going to give us the name of that number one stock pick of yours, right? You haven't forgotten.
I haven't forgotten.
All right.
I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
I promise. But first, there's one more big benefit of these stocks.
Oh, that's right. You've given us 2. What's the third one?
Even when the market crashes, as we know it will, you won't have to panic like most people. In fact, you might even look forward to the next crash. There's a way to flip them into even more money.
So how does that work?
Okay, let me explain. Imagine you invest in a regular stock, Facebook, Google, what have you.
Right.
And let's say the market crashes. What happens?
You lose money.
Right. If the stock drops 50%, half your money is gone. And you might have to wait several years to make back that money. Are you with me?
Right. All makes sense. What you're saying is that's not what happens with Swan stocks, though.
No,
okay.
Not at all. Not only do you keep receiving your payments, these payments can be like rocket fuel to your portfolio.
Rocket fuel. How so?
If you choose, you can reinvest these payouts back into the company. You can use them to buy additional shares at lower prices, which gives you bigger yields and positions you for bigger checks down the road.
All right. So in simple terms, you can use a crash to compound your wealth even faster.
Exactly. Every crash, every recession, and every pullback is not something to fear. With Swan stocks, these are opportunities to make even more money in the end.
Well, it sounds great, Brad, don't get me wrong, but in the moment, those drops can be gut-wrenching though, right?
That's why I decided to become a voice of reason during the 2020 crash. I knew exactly how people were feeling. When I nearly lost everything, it was devastating.
Sure.
I knew people would want to sell and swear off investing forever. So on March 13th, right as the world was shutting down, I wrote an article titled, "Stay Calm, This Too Will Pass."
Yes, and we have a quote from that article. You said in that the real winners in all of this, and yes, there most definitely will be winners when everything is said and done, probably sooner than later, will be those investors, analysts, and businesses that can think long term. In hindsight, that analysis was spot on. Now, I'm curious, did you practice what you preached at the time? Did you think long term yourself?
Absolutely. My team and I backed up the truck. The market started falling in late February. It bottomed on March 23rd. We recommended buys on March 9th, March 12th, March 16th, March 18th, and 20th, and even March 23rd.
No kidding. You actually helped people get into the exact day that the market bottomed out.
The exact day. Anybody who followed our advice had the chance to lock in huge yields for unbelievable companies. They're positioned to get massive payouts for years to come.
That took guts. didn't it? I mean, because most experts at the time, they were panicking. I remember that. How did you have the intestinal fortitude to do that?
Look, I love to pretend that it took nerves of steel.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it was a piece of cake. We were thrilled. Again, with Swan stocks, there's a lot less risk. Obviously, there's still some risk.
Right.
Nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing, including with these stocks. But look how my Swan portfolio performed during this time.
Yeah. Wow. There's what? There's a dozen paydays in there?
More than a dozen. While the market was crashing, you could have seen one payday after another.
Right. Now, what about more recently? Because in a lot of ways, I think 2022 has been worse than 2020 was, right? The stock market had its worst start to this year in decades. We got millions of people who are now delaying retirement and going back to work. So how have your Swan picks held up through this?
Fantastic. During the first half of 2022, my Swan portfolio crushed the market. It beat it nearly 2-1. And since then, it's only done better. Best of all, you could have collected a new payout, an average of almost once a week. Imagine the peace of mind this gives you. Imagine waking up every day without worrying about money. You check the news, see all sorts of scary stories about the economy, but you don't care. You know that with your Swan stocks, you can sit back, relax, and wait for the next payday.
Well, it sure sounds better than the alternative, Brad, I'll tell you that, because I see people trying all sorts of really risky things right now. Shorting, people trying to time the bottom, even trading so-called meme stocks. Your way sounds a lot simpler.
It's so much better. And again, I'm not the only one who feels that way. My team and I have received hundreds of notes from our readers. They love this approach.
Perfect segue. We actually have a few more of those on screen. Folks, take a look at this. I'm approaching my retirement day, and the stability and income provided by the portfolio choices has been just what I wanted. The market is getting more and more volatile and has gone through the challenge from the virus, interest rates, and war, but the portfolio I hold following Brad and his team's guidance has been able to give me results that allow me to sleep well at night. Again, there are so many more people out there with similar stories just like this. So it's clear your work is resonating with everyday people out there on Main Street, Brad.
Chris, despite the difficult times we live in, there's no reason we have to suffer. This can be a time of great prosperity. All you have to do is find a small group of Swan stocks and let them make you wealthy.
Yeah. So I take it you really, in reality, you're not worried about what happens next. Recession, downturn, whatever happens, you are not losing sleep.
Not at all. A few months back, I wrote an article titled, "I'm Rooting for a Recession."
I bet that caused a stir.
It did. It was the most popular article on Seeking Alpha that day. Look, I truly sympathize with people who are fearful of recessions. However, the fact is, I look forward to weakness in the stock market. As Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. I love buying Swan stocks when they're trading for a bargain.
Right, and using Warren Buffett's criteria, this certainly seems to be a time to be greedy.
Absolutely. It's no accident that Warren Buffett has been on a spending spree. He's loading up, and I recommended everyone to do the same. As the market enters a new phase, now's the perfect time to buy my Swan stocks.
Yeah, so this new phase, does that have something to do with massive shift that you mentioned earlier on?
It does. Let me explain. For over a decade now, we've been in what I call a dartboard market, Chris. From 2009 to the start of 2022, picking stocks was as easy as throwing darts. Every stock you hit was a winner. Unfortunately, those days are over.
Why is that?
Inflation. With inflation hitting 40-year highs, the Fed has finally started to raise rates. This has sent shockwaves through the market all year long. With less money to go around, riskier assets like cryptocurrencies, SPACs, and others have done especially poorly.
Right. And you don't see the Fed changing course anytime soon.
I don't.
Okay.
Remember, even now rates are historically low. As recently as the mid-2000s, they were twice as high. The Fed could double or triple rates from here. They still wouldn't be close to all-time highs.
So where does that leave us?
It means investors have to be choosier. Many of the investments that worked in the past are no longer going to work in the future. You can't put $500 in some small tech stock or a fancy crypto play and expect to make 1,000% overnight. Those days are over. That's where my Swan stocks come in. They're perfect for this new inflationary environment.
Why is that?
4 of my stocks are a unique type of real estate investment. Now, if you know anything about inflation, you'll know that real estate is a perfect inflation hedge. That's because inflation causes the value of land and buildings to rise. So as a hard asset, real estate can protect your portfolio from inflation and deliver a big income in the process.
And that makes perfect sense. Unlike cash in the bank, which can lose value from inflation, real estate is the opposite. It increases from inflation.
That's correct. Now here's what I like about these stocks in particular. They come from a tiny subsector of the real estate market. Most people have never heard of this corner of the market, but it does especially well during periods of high inflation. Listen to this. A group called S&P Global performed a study a few years back. They wanted to see which investments did the best during the worst interest rate environment ever, the late 1970s. Guess what? This group of stocks performed nearly 3 times better than the S&P.
Wow, so while many stocks lag, with these stocks you could crush the market for years.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it even gets better. Not only do all these stocks have payout increase programs, they're required by law to pay out 90% of their taxable income to shareholders.
I have never heard of that before. Now, is that common?
No, it's extremely rare, but it's 100% real for these swan stocks. That's why these companies have issued payouts for decades. They don't have a choice.
Right.
Through the tech crash, the financial crisis, the COVID pandemic, they've never missed a single payment. Not only that, in some cases, they pay out monthly.
Really? So instead of the usual 4 quarterly payments, you're getting a 12 a year?
Yes, you get 3 times more. All in all, these stocks are perfect for today's market. You could get market-beating gains, a series of rising income streams, and inflation protection.
Well, you know, if anybody knows a good real estate investment, Brad, it's got to be you. You were a real estate developer for over 20 years. I guess we mentioned that at the top of the show. During your career, you've seen rates rise and fall very sharply and everything in between, of course. And I think you mentioned, too, you were involved in $1 billion worth of real estate transactions. So you would definitely know better than anyone what makes a good investment. And these are all available through any brokerage account.
Yes, you buy them like any other stock. And that's just 4 of my swan picks. Another of my picks, pick number 5, is a favorite of the world's wealthiest investors. It counts more than 60 members of Congress and dozens of billionaires among its investors.
Is this the one that's doubling every year on average?
Yes, it's one of the most resilient stocks I've ever seen. Look at it during the 2008 and 2020 crashes. For some firms, those crashes were devastating. For this one, over the long term, they were insignificant.
Yeah, and you're right. They're just a couple of blips on the radar.
Bottom line, this stock could help you grow your wealth for years to come. And right now, you can get it for a good deal.
Of your 10 picks, Brad, which one has been growing its payouts the longest?
It's a tie between number 7 and number 10.
Okay.
Each has been raising its payout since 1962. Again, think of all that's happened since then. Think of how many companies have come and gone. Yet, for 60 years now, these companies have been rewarding shareholders. Can you see why I believe these stocks can help you retire comfortably, Chris?
Yeah, I can. I've been making a checklist in my head here. Capital gains, check. Income, check. Growing payouts, check. Market crash protection, put a star on that one. Beating the market right now, that's a big one. Check there too. Huge growth potential, never having to time the market again. How many of us can relate to that one? Double check there. I could keep going. This is good stuff.
They've got it all, Chris. They're the ultimate sleep well at night investments.
Yeah. I think this may be a good time for you to give us the name of your top pick. You want to share that with us now?
Okay, here it is. Mid-America Apartment Communities. Its ticker symbol is MAA.
MAA. We're going to put that up on the screen for everyone right now. You definitely want to write that one down, folks. Mid-America Apartment Communities, ticker symbol MAA. Remember, this is just one of Brad's picks. He's got 9 more, 9, right?
That's right.
And as he's explained, they all have just as much potential here. This is amazing.
They're all flying completely under the radar. One of them is trading for half the price of my top pick. Another trades fewer than 1 million shares a day. That's tiny. Apple does that every 5 minutes.
Good grief.
I bet fewer than 1 in 10,000 investors have heard of them. You have the chance to get them while they're completely unknown.
All right, so how can we get our hands on all these picks?
I put all the details in my brand new report, The Swan Portfolio. This report will show you exactly how to get started. I've never seen another report like it. As far as I know, it's the only one of its kind. No other expert I know of offers a way to create a comfortable retirement using one small portfolio of Swan stocks.
Right, and just to be clear here, Brad, this guide is not available any other place on the web out there, right? The only way to get it is through today's special offer.
That's right.
Okay.
I've never revealed it on Seeking Alpha or any other platform.
What specifically is in the report?
I give a full breakdown of each stock. I had thousands to choose from. I chose these 10 for very specific reasons. You'll see why I believe they're the best stocks for today, tomorrow, and forever. Plus, I'll also show you how their payout increase programs work.
Right, and are any of them expected to increase their payouts soon?
Yes, I can't guarantee anything, but in the past, some of the raises have come right around this time of the year. You'll definitely want to get in before that happens.
Right, and in the report, you're also going to explain why these stocks are perfect for today's high inflation environment. Right about that?
Yes, remember, the never-ending bull market is over. We're in a completely new environment. I'll explain why these stocks could be the biggest winners during the next phase.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning, right? I'm seeing a summary on screen right now. You're also going to reveal how to get started, even if you only have a few $100s, why you should never risk more money than you can afford to lose, and why you don't need to do that with these picks specifically, why these stocks have performed so well in bull and bear markets, and there's just so much more, Brad. And I understand you actually, is there a companion report as well? Tell us about that one.
It's called Sucker Yields and How to Avoid Them. Chris, nobody loves a high yield stock more than I do, but they're not all created equal. Some of them could look great at first glance, but are actually hidden landmines.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you literally wrote the definition for sucker yields, did you not?
Yes, around 7 years ago, I submitted it to the Financial Dictionary website, Investopedia, for $50. You won't find it there anymore, but the concept is just as relevant today as it was back then. Sucker yields are something you must avoid like the plague.
Yeah. What are sucker yields exactly?
They're low-quality companies with unsustainable dividends that cut their payouts, often numerous times. Chris, I can't count how often I've seen it happen. Investors will see a stock yielding high double digits, and they'll pile into it. But that incredibly high dividend yield is only half the picture. It ends up pulling the rug out from under unsuspecting investors' feet.
Yeah, I can imagine. So in the report, you explain how to tell whether a stock yielding 10, 15, or even 20% is either an incredible buy or a sucker yield.
Yes, including the names of several of the biggest sucker yield plays available today.
All right. Well, I'm especially excited to see that report. You are the ideal expert to talk about risk management. Just look, here's another note from one of your readers has sent in. Take a look at this, folks. He wrote, I've saved myself from some huge losses during this turbulent market. I can't imagine investing without Brad's research. And again, there are so many more amazing and happy people, your readers, who tell us things like this.
The last thing I would ever do is put your nest egg at risk. Protect principal at all costs. That's my #1 priority. My team and I spent countless hours developing a risk management system. It was a lot of work, but it was worth every minute. If you follow it, I truly believe you'll be prepared for whatever dangers may lie ahead. We lay it all out for you in this report.
Excellent. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so between your special report and the bonus report, you're offering arguably the most timely research that anybody can get their hands on, especially today. There's one more thing that you haven't mentioned, Brad, and I think you saved your best bonus for last year. I think this may be a good time to tell everybody about it.
Sure. Listen, I was fortunate to discover Swan Investing when I did. There was a point in my life when I didn't know how I would provide for my family, let alone retire. But thanks in large part to this investment strategy, I got my life back and then some. Others haven't been so fortunate. They're watching the markets tank. They're seeing their nest egg shrink. And they're wondering, did I miss my chance? Is the retirement I hoped for a lost cause? The answer is no. You can get the retirement you've always dreamed about. And I want to help you. To that end, I've launched a research service called the Intelligent Income Investor. And right now, we're offering a special deal to anyone who joins today.
How does this research service work, Brad?
Every month, my team and I scour the market for Swan stocks. They're not easy to find. It takes hours and hours of research. Less than 1% of stocks pass our strict criteria. But when one does, we recommend it to our readers, along with a full analysis.
Now, obviously, past performance doesn't guarantee future returns. All investing is going to involve some risk. But that said, we should point out that your past performance has been amazing. Back in 2020, you called the bottom of the crash almost perfectly. And not only that, you told your readers there is great opportunity to take advantage of, and that call, Brad, was spot on. Anybody who listened to you could have made a series of triple-digit winners. Same thing happened in last June, right? You called the bottom within just a few days, and you showed your readers again how to get in on some unbelievable buys that were trading for bargain prices. From 2020 through mid-2022, you ran a similar research service, and you had a near-perfect track record. You went 15 for 16 on closed positions with gains like 124%, 191%, and more, all in a matter of months. And on top of that, you gave your subscribers the chance to earn thousands in income. So to do that in a market like we're in right now, that's beyond impressive. I don't know anybody who's navigated this bear market as well as you and your team. And then, of course, stepping back even further, for nearly a decade now, you've shown a global audience how to multiply their wealth in good and bad markets. And many of these folks have sent in some glowing praise. We'll share a few more of these comments here. I normally do not write reviews, but I felt Brad and his team deserve recognition. The amount of information they make available is impressive compared to the cost of the service. Keep up the great work. Outstanding service with excellent articles and feedback. Detailed information provided, and love the CEO interviews that give further benefits to their recommendations. Very pleased with this service and highly recommend. And here's another one. I debated joining for over a year. I am so glad I finally pulled the trigger. Tons of value for a very low cost. Daily updates are also great. I will be a lifelong member. How's that make you feel?
Thank you, Chris. I love hearing these stories.
Yeah.
It makes it all worthwhile for me. Unfortunately, too many people are taking the wrong approach today. Either they're selling everything, or they're taking on way too much risk. It's not their fault. They're just doing what they know. The answer is so much simpler. Buy a few swan stocks and let them make you wealthy.
Right. Now, in the past, it has cost a pretty penny to follow Brad's ideas. You all should know that. We're going to level with you. The regular price for his research service was $500 per year. However, with this new venture, you're not going to have to pay anywhere near that. The retail price for a 12-month membership to Intelligent Income Investor is only $199. That means you can get started for less than half of what folks have paid for Brad's work in the past.
Chris, I've arranged for an even better deal.
Oh, really?
Look, a lot of folks are struggling right now. I truly believe my research is the best way for them to get back on track. The last thing I want is for the price to get in the way. So I convinced my publisher to knock the price down to $49.
Well, for an entire year.
Yes, the full 12 months.
Folks, I hope you realize what a good deal this really is. Brad is one of the most followed experts on these stocks, and what's more, others have paid literally 10 times that amount for his research. For the chance to access an entire year of his best ideas for a few pennies a day, you're not likely to see a better deal than that ever.
There's only one catch, Chris. I can't guarantee this price will be available for long. It's a special, limited time deal.
I see.
My publisher reserves the right to raise it at any time without notice.
All right, well, I'm glad you told us that. Translation there is don't wait, folks. Get started right now, and you can do that by clicking the button that you see on your screen right now. When you do, it'll take you to a secure page, and you'll be able to place your order there. Now, while you're doing that, let me just review everything, put it in one nice, tidy little bundle here. Everything that you're going to get when you join today. 1 full year of Intelligent Income Investor. As a new member, you're going to receive Brad's latest research immediately. And then every month, around the first Monday of the month, I believe, you're going to receive his latest ideas. Plus, you'll also get frequent updates as needed.
One thing, Chris. Obviously, the best opportunities don't always happen according to schedule. Some months you may get 2 recommendations, other months we may hold off, or the pick might come in a mid-month update. It depends on what's happening in the broader market. But either way, each pick is designed to help our readers achieve a worry-free retirement.
I got you. That makes perfect sense. Plus, you're also going to get the special report that we mentioned earlier, the Swan Portfolio. Each one of these stocks has what it takes to help you sleep well at night. You'll get the names and the ticker symbols of all of them, along with a full write-up. You're going to get bonus report number 1, sucker yields, and how to avoid them. And that report, remember, includes the names of several of the most dangerous high yielders on the market. Plus, you're going to get bonus report number 2, Brad's number 1 growth stock. Actually, tell us about that one, Brad.
This is my stock for those looking to jumpstart their entire portfolio.
Okay.
I call it have your cake and eat it too play.
What do you mean by that?
Not only does it have huge upside potential, it's extremely low risk, and it's a bargain. It's trading at the same level it was before the pandemic. Yet its revenue, gross profit, and earnings are all up significantly since then. I think it's an easy double or more.
Easy double or more. If you were to buy all of this research separately, folks, you would be looking at nearly $700 in cost. Today, it's all yours for just 49 bucks. And last but not least, we want you to know that you're also protected by Brad's 60-day money-back guarantee. Brad, how does that work?
It's very simple. I'm happy to say that most of my readers love my research. I get positive feedback all the time. However, if for some reason it's not for you, that's okay. Just call our customer service team within the next 60 days and they'll give you a full cash refund. And to make it fairer than fair, I'll let you keep my special reports. No questions asked.
That's awesome. And just remember, folks, you could start profiting immediately. As Brad said, these companies average around 1 payout per week, and the next ones are coming right up. So if you're a shareholder beforehand, you're going to get your cut. If you're not, you're completely going to miss out. So don't let that happen to you. Click that button below. Join Brad right now. Brad, we're running out of time here. I'm going to give you the honor of having any last words that you want to share with everybody out there.
Sure. I want to thank you for having me on, Chris.
Absolutely.
I want to thank all of you for watching us as well. I can't wait for you to get started. This is the best way I know of to make money not only in today's market, but for years to come. Once you start seeing the fruits of Swan investing, you'll be hooked for life. You'll never want to invest the old way again. Join me today, and I'll show you everything you need to know.
Well said. Very exciting. Folks, unfortunately, that's all the time we've got. But again, remember, to get started, all you have to do is click that button on your screen. You'll immediately be taken to a secure order form, and within minutes from right now, you will be able to access all the research that Brad has promised you. For Brad Thomas, I'm Chris Hurt. Thanks for joining us. So long, and happy Swan investing.